Ferrari has just done something that no one in Formula One expected, and the most surprising thing is that they have revealed it just before the Chinese Grand Prix. While the other teams continue fighting to find tenths with small aerodynamic improvements, Maranello has decided to play a much more aggressive card, an innovation that is already generating nervousness in the paddock and that could completely change the balance of forces on the grid. What Ferrari will bring to Shanghai is not a simple update or a minor adjustment to the car. It is a completely new part that exploits a gap in the 2026 technical regulations, something that until now no team has used in this way. According to information that has begun to circulate within the paddock, Ferrari will present in China an aerodynamic system that can transform the behavior of the car on the straight, a solution that not only reduces air resistance but also changes the way in which the car interacts with the rear aerodynamic flow. Some engineers have already baptized it with a name that is causing a lot of talk: the famous McLaren wing, a rear wing with a radical concept that rotates on its own axis when activated, completely altering the aerodynamics of the car. And the most shocking thing is not only the idea, but the figures that begin to leak from the tests. In the simulations and initial tests, there is talk of a gain in top speed that could be around several kilometers per hour on the straight, an advantage that on a circuit like Shanghai could make an enormous difference. Let us remember that the Chinese circuit has one of the longest straights on the calendar, which makes aerodynamic efficiency an absolutely decisive factor. If the data being discussed inside the paddock is real, Ferrari could have found a way to become extremely fast right where it matters most. The Chinese Grand Prix could become the first major turning point of the season, and it all revolves around a piece that Ferrari has been quietly preparing while the rest of the grid focused its attention on other aspects of the new regulations. What the Maranello team will bring to Shanghai is not simply a conventional aerodynamic upgrade, but a concept that changes the way the rear wing interacts with the air when the car reaches its maximum speed. For years, teams have sought to reduce straight-line aerodynamic drag without losing too much downforce in corners, but Ferrari appears to have found a much more radical way to achieve this by taking advantage of a very particular interpretation of the 2026 technical rules. The piece that has generated all this commotion within the paddock is the so-called Macarena wing, a rotating rear wing that introduces a completely different philosophy to that traditionally seen in Formula One. Unlike the usual systems, where only a small section of the wing is open to reduce drag, this design allows the main wing to rotate practically on its own longitudinal axis when the system is activated. This means that the aerodynamic element not only changes its angle, but literally modifies its position with respect to the airflow, radically altering the way in which the car generates downforce and how the flow that reaches the diffuser behaves. What really demonstrates Ferrari's confidence in this concept is that the team will not arrive in China with just one version of the system, but with several different configurations of the same wing. This indicates that Maranello not only believes that the idea works, but that they are willing to experiment directly during the race weekend to find the perfect balance between aerodynamic efficiency and car stability. In other words, Ferrari seems determined to make the most of this innovation from the first moment the SF26 hits the track in Shanghai. All of this also fits with the new philosophy of the car that Ferrari has developed for the 2026 season. Unlike other teams that have continued to rely on more traditional concepts based on ground effect, the Maranello car has been designed with a cleaner, lighter body and with a very clear focus on aerodynamic efficiency and energy management. The goal was to create an extremely fast car on a straight line without sacrificing too much cornering performance, and this new wing seems to be a key piece of that approach. That opens the door to something that until now no team has tried to take this far, allowing the main wing to rotate on its own axis when the aerodynamic system is activated. Instead of simply opening a small section of the wing as with more traditional systems, Ferrari's design much more aggressively changes the position of the entire wing, completely altering the way the car interacts with the air on a straight line. From a technical point of view, this not only reduces aerodynamic resistance, but also modifies the distribution of the flow that passes through the rear of the car, causing an effect that helps to further reduce the overall drag of the car. What has started to worry some teams is that this solution does not appear to be a simple marginal improvement, but rather a concept that could generate a clear advantage in certain conditions. At a circuit like Shanghai, where the main straight is extremely long and where overtaking often depends heavily on top speed, even a few extra kilometers per hour can completely change the dynamics of a race. If Ferrari really manages to reduce aerodynamic drag as significantly as the first estimates indicate, it could become one of the fastest cars on a straight line on the entire grid. Ferrari's decision to bring this innovation to the Chinese Grand Prix was neither improvised nor the result of a last-minute impulse. In reality, the development of this aerodynamic concept had been brewing for some time within Maranello's technical department as part of a much broader strategy for the 2026 car. From the start of the new car project, the team's engineers knew that the rule change would open up opportunities to reinterpret aerodynamics in ways that were simply not possible before. While many teams focused their attention on optimizing traditional configurations, Ferrari opted to explore more radical solutions that could offer a clear advantage in aerodynamic efficiency. The new SF26 was conceived precisely under that philosophy. Instead of relying exclusively on ground effect as the basis of aerodynamic performance, the car's design was oriented towards a cleaner body, with fewer unnecessary surfaces and much more controlled airflow management towards the rear of the car. This decision allowed engineers to create an aerodynamic package that prioritizes straight-line efficiency without completely compromising cornering performance, something that becomes especially valuable on circuits where long straights can define the outcome of a race. Within that design philosophy, the new rotating spoiler fits as a key piece to maximize that efficiency. Initially, Ferrari did not plan to introduce this innovation so early in the season. The original plan within the team contemplated a more conservative development schedule, with important improvements planned to arrive several races after the start of the championship, when the engineers already had a greater amount of real data of the car on the track. In fact, within the technical planning there was talk of a major aerodynamic evolution that could appear around the middle part of the calendar, possibly on circuits where the team could calmly analyze the behavior of the car and evaluate the impact of the changes. However, everything began to change after analyzing the first data collected in the initial evaluations of the car and in the first races of the championship. Ferrari engineers noted that the car had greater aerodynamic potential than they had originally anticipated, especially with regard to the efficiency of flow to the diffuser and the car's stability at high speed. That combination of factors led the team to rethink its development schedule. If the car was already showing positive signs from the start, bringing forward an innovation like the new spoiler could allow them to capitalize on that advantage before rivals had time to react. It was then that the strategic decision was made within Ferrari to accelerate the development program and prepare the debut of the new aerodynamic system for the Chinese Grand Prix. Shanghai offered a perfect setting to test this concept for several reasons. The circuit has an extremely long straight, which allows any improvement in top speed to be clearly measured. In addition, the layout combines high-speed areas with long corners that require aerodynamic stability, which also makes it possible to evaluate whether the system negatively affects the balance of the car in other parts of the circuit. For Ferrari, the objective of advancing this evolution is clear: to send a message to the rest of the grid from the beginning of the season. In an increasingly competitive Formula One, where the differences between teams are usually minimal, introducing a technical innovation that can offer a tangible advantage can completely change the dynamics of the championship. If the new system works as expected in Maranello, it could not only improve the car's performance in Shanghai, but also force rivals to rethink their own aerodynamic developments so as not to be left behind. Furthermore, this move also reflects a much more aggressive attitude on the part of the Italian team in its competitive approach. For several seasons, Ferrari was criticized for being too conservative in introducing major updates, waiting too long before bringing solutions that were already ready in the simulator or wind tunnel to the track. This time it seems that the philosophy has changed. Instead of saving this innovation for later, the team has decided to put it into play from a very early stage of the championship. And that decision could have important consequences for the development of the rest of the season. If Ferrari demonstrates in China that this solution really offers an advantage on the track, other teams will have to decide quickly whether to try to develop a similar concept or look for other ways to counteract that possible advantage. In modern Formula One, reaction time can make the difference between fighting for the championship or spending the entire season trying to make up lost ground. Therefore, the Chinese Grand Prix will not just be another race on the calendar. It will be the first moment in which everyone will be able to see if Ferrari's technical commitment really has the potential to change the competitive balance of the grid. Because if the new aerodynamic system meets the expectations that have been generated around it, we could be facing an innovation that forces the entire paddock to react much sooner than they imagined at the beginning of the championship. In the end, everything that has surrounded Ferrari before the Chinese Grand Prix leaves a very clear feeling within the paddock. The Maranello team has not only worked to improve its car, but also seems to have tried to strategically get ahead of the rest of the grid in this new era of the regulations. The introduction of such an unconventional aerodynamic concept shows that Ferrari has opted to explore the limits of technical regulations in search of an advantage that can make a difference from the start of the championship. In a Formula One where every detail counts and where the tenets are disputed with increasingly complex developments, finding an interpretation of the regulations that allows improving the car's efficiency can become a decisive factor. The new system that Ferrari plans to use in China is not simply another piece in the SF20SIXS aerodynamic package, but a declaration of intent. It means that the team is willing to take risks, innovate and push the limits of technical design to try to regain a dominant position within the championship. And precisely for this reason, the attention of all the teams will be focused on what happens in Shanghai, because it will be the first time that this concept is seen in real racing conditions against direct rivals. Let me know in the comments what you think about all this.